You might have picked up on a little bit of a theme going on here with, especially when we've been covering things like From Conservative Home, which we will be today, with our good old favourite T-boy, Will Atkinson, because he has been dragged out to try and explain, at least to the Conservative leadership, that, well, look, Badenoch might be that good, but maybe she might be all right. If not, we're going to be in a bit of a trouble. And oh boy, I think Will has written this in a bit of a panic, thinking, why have we gone for Kemi Badenoch? Because we know Will was a Robert Jerrick supporter, but I will say this now. If Robert Jerrick had won, what would be the difference between him and Badenoch right now? Like, in this alternate universe, what would have been the difference? Robert Jerrick doesn't have any policies either. He was not forthcoming, just as Badenoch was not forthcoming, even though you'll see all these people saying, oh, but Robert Jerrick had policies. No, he didn't. He just said he was going to be tougher on immigration. But apparently, in a Conservative leadership contest, saying that you are going to be tougher on immigration counts as, you know, as policy, when it is the most abstract form of policy I can possibly ever think of. Okay, you're going to be, quote, tougher on immigration. What exactly does that mean? Look, there are a lot of people right now, and certainly in the Conservative world and the Conservative comment sphere that we've been seeing, are panicking, of course, about Badenoch, thinking, oh no, what's happened? We've picked another absolute loser. And that certainly seems to be the case. And even when we've got Will, as we'll see in a moment, contemplating the idea that they're going to have their fifth leader in 3 years, maybe instead of, saying that, maybe Will should actually focus on that question and focus on that idea. Why is the Conservative Party so bad that in Will's world, he is predicting that they are going to get rid, potentially, of Kemi Badenoch after May's local election, and that she's going to have such a rough time of it that she could very well either be forced out, or there will just be rebellion after rebellion that will just push her out of the picture. Maybe if I was Will, or maybe another Conservative commentator, I would be asking the questions about what is really going on in the Tory party. And if you've been watching this channel, you know what's going on in the Tory party. It is absolute chaos and trials and tribulations, because they need to have a good long look in the mirror, but they ain't going to like what they see, because they've been in power for over 14 years. The new, what shall we say, the former shadow education secretary, he wrote a piece in Conservative Home where, bear in mind, Labour have really barely been in power at this point. So what education policy has like taken effect to have an effect on, state education? He wrote in this entire piece condemning like the state of public schools. But you're like, hold on. hold on a second, my friend. Do you not realize your party was the one in power for all this time? Maybe the reason that state education is so bad is because of your party, and that blaming a brand new government when it's what, 4 months in at this point, 5 months, might not be the best idea, because their policies and anything like that have barely had a chance to filter through into the education system yet. His are still all there. And if we are complaining about how bad the state schools are, what's his responsibility when he was in charge of that? Again, blame game, blame, because, daren't look at themselves. daren't look at themselves, their past actions, and their past policies. But before we do go getting on into Will's little panic piece here, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the One Off Nation link where you can, well, buy me coffee. Again, you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club down below as well. So, as always, thank you very much to everyone who does help and support that. So, let's crack on then into this. I'm just going to jump down halfway because we've heard everything Will puts in his first half we've heard before. Oh no, Badenoch's not doing well. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So, this is, of course, after he talks about failing in May. So, if a bad result for May is currently priced in, how bad can things get? He asks himself the question, which, again, I think is very telling of his state of what he thinks of the Tory party. Things are just going to get bad. The loss, at least, of 100 councillors, a third of the national vote share. Badenoch can say that she will turn things around, but it's only been a year since the general election. She's embarking on a big thing, even if it just involves her and Lee Rowley tucking into some Wagyu steaks at Flatiron, being Q stepping stones to anti-woke boogaloo, which, oh boy, they will. And I'll tell you this now. If you saw our video just also this week about Badenoch's really cringy Washington speech that went down horribly with UK conservatives, if she starts turning around into that, oh boy, she is finished. She is finished so hard. Or, Will says, she might actually find herself now being forced out of the national conversation by her rivals, both in and out of the party. Tory MPs might panic as the polls just get worse. Reform might then take hitherto safe councils. Next year, we might see us wiped out in Scotland and Wales. Poor PMQs after poor PMQs. Embarrassing media round after embarrassing media round. Tensions fray. Only a third of our MPs actually rate her. Bear in mind, she has had really poor PMQ performance after poor PMQ performance. Conservative Home can try and, put sprinkles on it all so much, but I'm sorry, a bad performance at PMQs is a bad performance at PMQs. And if they are, as Will said, and there is a lot of evidence, especially in Wales, that they might get wiped out there, oh boy, and that's 2026. That's 2026 when those votes will happen. Remember, 2021 was the last time the Conservatives won big, and this is that moment again. So all the losses that they've had since then, even those local elections since 2021, have been very, very bad. This was the last time they did good. If they have a horrible result, which they will probably find, they will lose more than 100 councillors. As I will say this now, I think it is going to be the Lib Dems that are going to sort of be the big winners in a lot of those, Tory seats. Even Will's saying here, oh, what if Reform take hitherto safe council seats? What if the Lib Dems take those seats, Will? Because they're the ones that are the threat to you, not Reform at this point. But so obsessed are they of not looking in the mirror, not analysing just their bad tendencies. This is how bad they are becoming. They are becoming so bad, and we are witnessing a death of the party. People always wonder, why do you keep on continuing to cover what's going on with the Conservatives? Because we are witnessing the death of a political party. It is not every day that these types of political parties go and die. And in particular, this looks like the death of the Conservative Party could be a long, drawn-out one. And quite frankly, once they lose status as being seen as like the main opposition, which potentially could happen after the next general election, I don't see any point in covering them at that point. I don't see any point in covering them. Maybe every so often as they, continue to fade ever more into irrelevance and slowly die out. Maybe even, amalgamating finally with Reform UK. Um, I don't know, but it's going to be, it's a moment in history we're witnessing. And this is why I believe there is value in really looking at what's going on here and just saying, like, having a look at it from the outside, just going, what are they doing? It's insane to see a party fall apart so quickly, so badly like this. But they've all done it to themselves. But they daren't look in the mirror. They daren't look in the mirror and ask them what went wrong. So back to this. In this case, the now confluence of circumstances, as I outlined during the leadership election, obviously would come to pass. Even with the raised threshold, Badenoch would now face a vote of no confidence, which goes against her. And now we find ourselves looking for a fifth leader in 3 years. It's all so very tiresome. Maybe, Will, you and others should be asking yourselves why that is the case. But I don't think you would do that, because that might imply, some real proper looking, your party in the mirror. But no, Will is very much part of this party that doesn't understand, that's still part of the group that is like, no, you don't understand. The UK yearns for conservative rule. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. So, how can Badenoch actually avoid this? First of all, making progress against Farage. Well, how's she going to do that? Well, how can she make progress against Farage? Doesn't look like she's done anything with that so far. So, how does she do that? Not leading on immigration at PMQs until she has an answer that does not allow open borders enthusiast Starmer to needle her from the right. A good start would, of course, be to read Robert Jerrick's Centre for Policy Studies paper on migration, which, of course, at its heart, has the Rwanda plan. Are you seriously wanting to start the Rwanda plan again? A policy that you were absolutely dragged over the coals for, because it was said to you time and time again, it would not work. It would be a disaster of a policy. Bear in mind, you've given all that money to Rwanda, and I don't think they're giving it back. But at least, the Conservatives can prove that they can build houses, they can build social housing, indeed, just as long as it's not in the UK. And of course, it's funny, of course, Will citing Robert Jerrick on that. So let's finish this off. In politics, one finds that you always have less time than you would expect. Badenoch has now far less time than she might have hoped for. She should take a leaf out of Starmer's book and embark on an early relaunch. Think of a few popular policies. Oh, the second she does that, there will be consequences from other Tories. that's for certain. That would be certainly be a downfall. Triple the podcasts. Really? Will's just talked about how embarrassing her appearances have been on TV, which, bear in mind, are very short 5 to 10-minute appearances. A podcast, imagine that stretched out for an hour or two. If she's having so bad appearances on live television, what's she going to be like if she decides to do an hour's podcast and it's continuous car crash after car crash after car crash? Anyway, head to the TV studios. I'm sure Jerrick would be happy to have her as a debut guest for his rumored GB News slot. Ken, I wonder why Jerrick's going on GB News, because again, he gets to be an anti-Kemi Badenoch voice and gets to speak against her and even brief against her on GB News. If I were Kemi Badenoch, I would say, sorry, you either take that position on GB News and you leave as an MP, or you stay as an MP, but you give up the GB News slot. Because if I were Badenoch, I would not want Jerick having his own show. That would be the last thing I would ever allow a leadership rival to do something like that. That would be disastrous. If he's out of the party, great. He can shout into the wilderness all he wants. But if he's got this two going at the same time, that's where if I were Badenoch, I would be like, sorry, Jerick, you either take to being a news presenter or you remain an MP. Which is it going to be? Like, really ultimatum him on that. But again, if you want, quote, not another leadership contest, maybe then, as Will once eloquently put, that she should be killing the sons of Brutus. And that certainly, maybe, Jerick is certainly one of those sons of Brutus. Seems to have forgotten that he wrote that a long time ago. Well, just a couple of months ago, in fact. But anyway, back to this. Social media, press release, BBC Breakfast, all these are part of our politics, of which Badenoch is not a huge fan, but both her colleagues and voters will notice. Her election was overshadowed by Donald Trump. Her leadership is now overshadowed by Farage. She must blunt his rise and fast. Again, panicking over reform. It's not reform that the May elections are going to outperform them. It's going to be the Lib Dems, who I think at the May local elections going to be taking a lot of seats, a lot of local council seats, going to be winning a control of a lot of councils. And that's Ed Davey digging in to what was the Blue Wall, which, bear in mind, the Conservatives were all about when they won the Red Wall, but then they failed to take the councils. And if you remember back then, we even did a video talking about how worried they were at the time of not taking all those local councils, of not winning those local councils. Because, we won so well with the MP first time, in some of these areas. Now we'll take the councils and cement our control. They didn't do that. They might have won a seat here or there. And we've even covered some of those local councillors crowing about the fact that they managed to just hold on to a seat by like a few hundred votes, only to then lose that seat the next time around. As was the case with the Rotherham one, if you remember that. Yeah. Kemi Badenoch in May is, things could get interesting after May. Because the question will become, what does she do in response to that? If she does nothing, what then? What then? So, as always, I think Will has put it right. They might be searching for a new leader. And of course, as always, let me know what you think down below. And of course, there's the links down below as well. You can hit the like and share button on your way out as well. And of course, we'll see you all next time. So until then, we'll see you all very soon.